Hey! All right, we are live now. So, guys, hello. Welcome to the March Specialties of Percussive Art Society Philippine Chapter in collaboration with Percussive Art Society University Student Committee. Yon. So, sa mga nanonood, wag po kayong mahiya. Share nyo lang po ang ating live para marami po nakakita. So, remind ko lang po, it's not always for the uh, percussionist. It's also welcome to everyone, every musician. All right. So, magkamustahan po muna tayo. Uh, Jules and Benedict, kamusta yung pag-aaral natin ng percussion this pandemic? Kamusta ba?
Lang.
Kamusta yung online
Hindi mo
class
susubo
natin?
sa sarili mo. Ano ba? Ano ba? Relax lang.
Chill lang tayo.
Yeah.
So, yun, share ko muna yung sa akin. So, this pandemic, I tried to discover some new things. Like nag-try ako improve ko pa yung pag-play ko ng drum set. Then, yung about sa mallets naman, since we're in the Philippines, is yung problem natin yung instruments, di ba? So, yung ginawa ko, for the mallets, nag-draw ako ng part ng parang yung nilagyan ko lang siya ng tape, tapos may karton, doon lang ako nagpa-practice. So yan, nagkaroon ako ng mga new discoveries. Nag-engage din ako sa mga free lessons and free seminars like this one. So how about you, Jules, Benedict? So mayroon tayo kay Jules.
Yeah. Well, since yung pandemic actually, mas nakafocus ako sa pag-editing at saka yung when we
Yes.
used our microphones, having different mics, I already have this setup here. So like, for 2 years, I've just been trying to do better in editing and understanding the technology. Really, yun lang talaga.
Yun.
Ayan.
So how about you, Benedict?
Sa akin naman, actually yung mga online, yung mga turo, talagang medyo nag-a-adjust din ako kasi ako nagtuturo na din ako ng mga mga drummers, and nag-a-adjust pa kasi ang hirap magturo ng online kasi nasanay sa ano,
Oo, 'di
sa
ba?
face to face. So, hanggang ngayon din nag-aaral pa ako kung paano gamitin yung mga digital audio workstation, kung paano makapag-record ng maayos. Kaya etong pandemic na 'to malaking tulong din para sa akin. At least yung time ko rin na ma-maximize ko para ma-improve ko yung craft ko.
Pero 'di ba ano, napansin natin yung bago mag-pandemic hindi tayo masyadong techy, 'di ba? Hindi tayo masyadong
Mm.
nagre-record, more on
Yeah,
ano tayo 'di
yeah.
ba,
Lagi
more on
ng
practice
live
lang,
eh.
yeah. So
Oo.
this pandemic ano, nagkaroon tayo ng ano, ng way para
Opportunity.
maano by using recordings, siyempre especially sa mga classes, 'di ba? So
Mm-mm.
before we
It's
forget,
very
let me introduce myself. I'm Ken Brian Picapistrano from Philippine Women's University. And
I'm Jules Garcia. I'm from St. Scholastica's College, Manila.
I'm John Benedict C. Marcelino from the University of the Philippines College of Music.
all right. So, huwag natin patagalin to. Jules, can you introduce our guest speaker for tonight's specialties?
All right. So, let us now introduce our artist. She is the assistant percussion director with Reedy High School in Frisco, Texas, where she also works with Pearson Middle School and Pioneer Heritage Middle School. She specializes in keyboard and world percussion and loves to perform professionally on the side. She received her bachelor's degree from Middle Tennessee State University in instrumental music education and her master's degrees from Texas Christian University in percussion performance. She has proudly studied under Lalo Davila, Dr. Brian Mueller, Julie Davila, Matt Jordan, Dr. Brian A. West, and Joey Carter. In the educational world, she has taught many high school and middle school percussion programs throughout Tennessee, North Carolina, and Texas. She is proud to have co-instructed the Rock Springs Middle School Percussion Ensemble as they perform at the 2018 TMEA in Tennessee. She also co-owns and operates a marching percussion arrangement slash composition company, EMDS Percussion. She is proudly involved with the Percussive Arts Society and has been a member since 2015. She won the 2016 Chamber Percussion Competition and currently serves as the committee chair for the University Student Committee. She proudly endorses innovative percussion. She marched for 4 seasons of DCI and 2 seasons of WGI Cults in 2015, Blue Knights 2016-2017, and Cults again in 2019, Atlanta Quest 2016, and Music City Mystique in 2017. She now works as a front ensemble technician for the Mandarin's Drum and Bugle Corps and Monarch Independent Percussion. In her free time, Emily enjoys learning new percussion instruments and styles, going on bike rides, and cooking. So again, here's Emily McGee.
Yay!
Wow, that's amazing.
That was so good.
And welcome,
Yep.
Emily. So, thank yeah, thank you for being here with us tonight, today, this morning.
Yeah, in
So
your end, it's good
honestly, that
learning.
video was really amazing. I only started learning the four mallets, so I'm like, wow.
Yeah, learning
Yeah.
formalities is also hard, but
Is there?
playing
Yeah.
also with another percussion is also another challenge. So yeah, it's really good.
Thank you, thank you. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun to record and
Yeah.
work
Like,
on.
how long did it take you
Yeah,
to? Yeah. How long
and how
did
many
it take you
takes?
to practice to learn that piece?
That was my senior recital from Middle Tennessee State. So maybe we learned that about 2 months before the recital. I guess that
What?
recording, yeah, that recording was about 7 weeks after we started playing it.
What? Oh my god!
Recording
Oh,
only. Oh my god,
It's very
how,
repetitive.
yeah.
I can't do that.
How many takes how many takes?
Yeah.
Only
We
one?
did, no, we did like 5 full runs and then picked
Oh,
our favorite one.
wow. But in that 5 days, you
Oh.
played it completely. No cuts.
We
Oh,
didn't put it
nice.
together because we thought it took away from the like organic of the music. Like we
Yeah.
wanted, if there was a mistake, it deserved to be there.
Yeah.
Aw.
Okay, very
I
nice.
always get so stressed out if there's a mistake.
No,
Yeah.
it's
Can't
part
do
of the
that.
music. Mistakes are normal, so we left them in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we can start now. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. Uh,
All
I guess I
right.
can just jump on in.
Yeah.
So first, first and foremost, I want to give a huge thank you to all of the PAS Philippines chapter, and especially the hosts Kent, Jules, Benedict, and Ryan. You guys are incredible. Thank you for bringing me into this and putting together this presentation. It's really nice to see.
Yeah.
We already got a little background about myself, which is good. Uh, Basically, I guess I've just always tried to stay very busy in my life. And so when I was first reached out to by the Philippines chapter to do this clinic, and we were trying to decide like what I could offer from the university student committee, we ended up landing that what would be maybe the most beneficial is talking about like an honest experience of what it's like to be a music student in today's world, because it's probably a little different, and I personally believe that it's not spoken about totally like straightforward. I believe that people talk about school like it's either really horrible or totally achievable, and we don't really find the middle ground of, well, how do you stay in school, stay healthy, and achieve your dreams? And
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
also
yeah,
this
and I
this topic you choose, it's also relevant now. Yeah, it's like an out of the box topic. So it's really great. Yeah. I can wait to the topic that you will discuss now.
definitely it's exciting. So I guess a little precursor. I am here to really share kind of my experience going through school and what I learned and discovered. I by no means feel that I am like the best at school. I am not. And I by no means am the most successful person in the world, but I think that I was able to go through college and like piece together every little challenge bit by bit and learn the lesson from that challenge and then take on the next challenge and learn the lesson from that challenge. And I really am excited to share with you kind of my story through that, and hopes that maybe you can take away some of those lessons as opposed to making the mistakes that I made.
Yeah, I will take note of that.
We will all take
Awesome.
note of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's jump in.
Yes.
Yes. Let's go.
Yes, my title. That is, I guess, really a good theme to look at. It's all about balance. Like, I guess life in general is all about balance, but especially in school, it's not about doing only percussion or doing only your classes. It's or only your life outside of school, because we're all humans and school is just what we do. But in reality, like, we have to wake up in the morning, we have family, we have other obligations. So the title I went with was about balance. Next slide, please. Thank you. That's the goal. That's what we're going to try to discover is what my experience was, how I found my personal balance in hopes that maybe it would help you find your personal life balance. All right, I'm ready. Let's jump in. So, the first thing I learned when I went to college that is the most important ever is that failing to plan is planning to fail. This little saying basically means that if you don't think ahead and prepare yourself for the future, you're probably not going to have the most success as if you did take the time to prepare. And my favorite tactic to make sure I'm like planned and ready to go are calendars. I love my calendar. It is like I think if I didn't have a calendar, I would just wander around lost all the time. And I put a little picture of it in the background there, and you can see how I personally like to slot out my day to day life and keep track of where I should be and whatnot. Um, so, the advice I would give is to choose one medium for your calendar, whether that be something that is online, like I use Google Calendar because I just let Google run my life. It wants to anyway. And then from there, you put in your obligations, or if it's like a physical calendar, you write in your obligations. Like at this time on Tuesdays, I go to this class, and I put in every single one of those. I also love to color code. Every class gets its own color, but that just is aesthetically pleasing to me. And then once you add all your classes, I go in and I add concerts, I add dress rehearsals. If there's a clinic I want to watch, I'll put that one in my calendar too, as far ahead as I can. Any vacations, etc. And then once that's taken care of, I like to go put my assignments in the specific time slots. So, for example, if I have history class at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, and in the class it tells me like when my due dates are, I will put those due dates in the calendar because the more you can have everything in one place, the better. So if there's like a paper due in 2 weeks, it'll be in my calendar 2 weeks so I can look at it and see, oh, I have a paper due, as opposed to having to check like 4 different locations to see what's due when and when my classes are. Once that's done, those are all the solidified time slots where you are obligated to be. That's when I can plan my free time and plan what free time should be spent practicing, what free time should be spent doing homework, what free time can be spent being free and doing other things. And I do that by placing an event inside. So, like, I have a color that is specific to my arranging time as opposed to a color that may be just for the class, which I find helps me a lot to keep up with what goals need to be accomplished on a day-to-day basis. What else do I put in there? Things will change. Yes, they will. I think I try my darndest to schedule out every day, but I think every day my schedule is changing from what I planned. And that's totally normal and it's totally okay. The way I combat that is I move events to a different day. And with the virtual calendar in Google, if I have like at 3 o'clock, I do my homework for history class and I don't do it, I'll move it to a time in the future that I can do it and I'll try again because, things change last minute, especially in school. And then what else? Things will change, move it elsewhere. And then materials, staying organized. I like to keep a really consistent pattern, a very repetitive routine so that nothing changes. So, for example, I use one notebook for my classes, and all my notes are in that one notebook. And I don't ever take notes in a different location because that adds variables that then can add mistakes. So, by being consistent in the materials you use and being consistent in how you approach your calendar, you're set up for the best success. It's like, what's an example? Like losing things. I used to lose things all the time. Like I'd put a water bottle here and then forget that I put it there and I'd walk off. And then the next day I would not have a water bottle anymore. I just couldn't remember where I put it. And the way that I've combated and learned against that is I don't put the water bottle anywhere except its place. So if its place is in my backpack pocket, then every time I'm done with the water bottle, it'll go in the backpack pocket. So like it's a routine every day, and I get used to where things belong and how they exist with me in my day-to-day life. And it's helped me find a little bit more consistency. All right. That's the end of our first little chapter. I think it would be smart to pause and see if there are any questions about any of these like logistics of calendars and planning.
Well, uh, I do have a question. Sorry. So like, do you also give like a time in your schedule, like when to do your assignments and paperwork?
Definitely. Definitely. Actually, can I share my screen? Is it possible to show you like an example of what my calendar looks like today, right now? I know we didn't practice that.
Oh, I don't think we could do that at the moment. Maybe we could
Oh,
just
that's okay.
share an image maybe after this to our others. Yeah, in our chat
Okay.
eventually. Yeah, maybe yeah.
No worries.
So we can't really do that now.
That's okay. But yeah, I would have like my
uh,
calendar today
I also
working at school. And if there's like a gap right here, that is when I would say, in that gap, I will be doing this thing that will help me in the future.
that's because I also like do my own schedule like on my phone, color coded and all that. But sometimes I also have a hard time following my schedule. So like it's hard to make a commitment with my calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Every day
Ken,
changes.
Ben, did you have any question?
I mean, okay.
Um,
Can I go
we
first?
have questions that
Oh, is it me? Can I have a question?
Yeah, Kent, go for it.
Okay, so about your plan, when do you do this? Is it in the free time or you have another time for it, another slot for it?
Oh, that's a great question. Planning to plan. I routinely check my calendar during lunch, and I think I do it before the next day. So, like right before I start my wind down process at the end of the day, I'll look at the next day's calendar and make sure that I am prepared for tomorrow because it's the most immediate thing.
More like
And then during,
you more like you discipline yourself to do this routine almost every day. It's
yeah,
really hard.
routine is really where I've found the most success is keeping consistency in how I approach my calendar has helped me stay the most organized.
Yeah. So Benedict, your question?
I have a question. When you when you find yourself overworking on one thing out of all of your responsibilities or things you need to do, what do you do?
That is a awesome question. I usually have to stop and look at my prioritization, like choosing what's the most, like, what due date is the closest, what's the most important thing to me. I actually think there's a slide on this a little bit later. Let's revisit this question. It's
Yeah.
really an important one. I'm glad you asked it.
All right, all right. I guess we can
So
continue.
yeah, let's continue now.
All right. Now, here's the stuff that people don't tell you. Even in college, you have your classes and the stuff that you sign up for physically. But beyond that, I find nowadays, maybe even more so, there's all this other stuff we have to do. So it's not just about going to school anymore. It's about preparing for your future. How are you networking? Are you gaining experience in your field? Maybe you have to work a job for a source of income. Like there's all these other things that you have to keep up with so that when you get out of college, there's open doors for you to move forward. And I find that like quite overwhelming when I first learned that it's not just about what is college. I don't just get to wake up and go to class. I have to do other things as well so that the future of my life is going to be more successful. So how do we do that? How do you balance not just school but now all of your other life obligations? And the way I found is it works the best when I can be like find one solution that fits all. So for example, when I was in college in Tennessee, I found a small teaching job that was about 10 minutes from where I lived, and I could go teach there about 12 hours a week, so like maybe 2 or 3 afternoons for 3 hours at a time, and that gave me a source of income. It gave me networking experience with band directors and teachers in my area, and it also provides experience on a resume that you are teaching. So, my greatest advice in terms of balancing another obligation is try to find something that fits your field and also pays you would be the best. Like private lesson teaching would be a great option if you can virtually teach private lessons to people, or if you can maybe tutoring even, but something that's slightly related to education or slightly related to music would be definitely the most beneficial. Another option would be like an on campus job. That way you're making connections in your school, or I guess if we're online, it would be maybe there's like logistical work you can help out with the front office staff. I know sometimes here in the United States, all front offices will sometimes hire students to help them with their paperwork and filing and keeping organized. So that's a good option as well. What else? Oh, and then the other thing we are expected to do is networking. Get out there and meet people that do the job that you want to do. That is an easy thing to say, but actually a surprisingly difficult thing to do. Luckily for percussionists, we have the Progressive Art Society, which is just so wonderful at helping connect you to people. Like, for example, here we are now, meeting people that I normally would not have met if I hadn't reached out through the Progressive Art Society. So this was a really great opportunity for me and a really great opportunity for you. But even if you're not a percussionist, there's got to be some sort of environment that facilitates and connects people in your field together. And you could find that and just start to get involved, even if it's just going to a Zoom clinic like this and meeting somebody that you normally wouldn't have met. Or maybe it's in the future when we've recovered from the pandemic, maybe it's going to a festival of sort or a convention. Um, which then brings up the next thing where it's like a financial obligation, because most of those situations do cost money. So then that goes back to the calendar and planning. So in order to like save money and be able to afford the privilege of networking, wild, I find works best if you can look for opportunities on how to be the most cost effective in the networking you look for. So, for example, Percussive Art Society puts on little days of percussion, regional environments, as well as a international convention that happens in Indiana. And one of the ways that PAS helps bring people there so they have a chance to network despite their financial status is there are scholarships. So like students like you guys, if you're a percussionist out there, could apply for a international scholarship to attend PASIC, and it would pay for your your flight, it would pay for a hotel and a little bit of food money while you were in Indiana. I believe this was happening before the pandemic. I think the scholarship has paused because of just safety precautions. But there are situations like that around that have money for you. You just have to know where to look for it. The University Student Committee that I work with in the Progressive Arts Society is currently working to release a document that really spells out some of these details and specifications on how you can look for funding or maybe write grants within your school, within your university, that will help you to network. Because like, it's such an important thing to find the time and be able to manage when to go out in the world and gain the experience you need. And I personally believe that finances should not be something that hold you back. So the more that the university student committee can do to help you find these finances, or the more that I can do to help you find financing so that you can have that opportunity, like that's just the better. Um, okay, let's pause there. If there are any questions about adding on the other expectations in life.
Yeah. Uh, I start first. So you mentioned about the basic, right? Yeah.
Yes.
About the basic. Yeah. I just want to share that attending the basic also is one of one one of a lifetime achievement as a percussionist, because in this event you can, I think you can explore more, get out of your comfort zone and meet another person, and you can meet and you can discover another type of music that you doesn't know about. So for my question, did you do another non-music jobs,
I
like
had a non-music
more on paper
job.
office work, something like that?
Office work.
Yeah, more
I
just an
did
example.
I did in high school. I would sometimes go help out at offices, but it wasn't like a consistent job. Otherwise, I tried to always find work related to my field. So I did not ever work in like a store, or I didn't really ever work at a office, but I would look for other opportunities to make money, like going and teaching a little weekend camp would sometimes profit more than a week of office work. And so I would look for weekend camps to schedule maybe 2 every month, and then that would balance out better for me than trying to commit to a job during the week when I was trying to focus on my studies. And the only way you find those are through the networking experiences and trying to get out and talk to people and see how you can help them and exchange finances for services. It's
Yeah,
a lot of communication.
it's really hard to maintain your yeah,
Yeah,
to
I have a
get an
question.
income.
What were your music related jobs that you took when you were a student?
The most came from teaching private lessons. So if you can find younger percussion students, and you don't charge a lot, like we do $20 for a lesson, so it's about the same as, I don't know, two little lunches, I guess would be the cost. And you do that once a week for one student, and it would bring in about $80 a month. And then the $80 a month maybe helps me pay for the gas in my car. And so if when I was in my undergrad degree at Middle Tennessee, I taught for private lesson students. So then every month I had whatever 80 times 4 is. Is that
Ooh.
320? Is that math?
I'm not
Yeah,
really
yeah,
math.
yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Um,
All right. So
yeah.
we have a question from the FB Live
Um,
from Sir Ernie Severino, one of the great drummers here in the Philippines. So his question is, I'm 60 years old. Would you suggest that I still try to get a music degree?
That's a great question. I would say that it really depends on what you would like to do moving forward. If what you would like to do moving forward requires a degree, like if we were in the States and you wanted to teach in a school, you would have to have a degree to do that. But if you find that you're currently doing a great job funding yourself and you're happy, the most important is you're happy and you have a good life balance, then maybe the degree is not for you. There are there are tons of successful musicians that I work with that don't have music degrees. And I think that's a really good point, that the music degree maybe isn't everything that you need. You just have to find what works best and what's the balance in your life.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
I hope.
Really.
Oh, thank you. It's like I hope I answered that right. Good luck.
Yeah, it's a great. Actually, it's great. Huh. So for next question, uh, it's all about mental health. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
we have a mental health slide at
yeah,
the end. I think the fourth one is mental
yeah.
health.
So maybe we'll tackle that later.
Yeah, let's
Is it
wait. I
yeah,
bet it's a
okay.
great
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
So for this one, yeah, I think you answered this one about the connections. Were your connections very helpful in looking for a job? Yeah, I think you answered that earlier, right?
Yeah, that they're everything.
Yeah,
Connections are everything in a job. Nowadays,
yeah.
it's actually funny, this just happened to me. The internet is so dangerous in like modern time. Like there's scammers everywhere. I actually was
Yeah.
scammed like a few days ago trying to rent a
Oh,
home. And because of that, yeah, that's a long story.
so,
But anyway, um you like can't really just trust the computer. And so what's happened now I find is that students and people trust each other more. My favorite example is like if I were to come visit Jules in the Philippines and she said to me, "There's a really great place where you can have an amazing lunch right down the street. Let's go." I would trust Jules in a heartbeat because I know her face to face. But if I looked on the internet and it said, "Hey, you should have lunch here," I don't know if I would trust the internet as much.
yeah,
And it's like that with jobs, it's like that with connections. So like to find my job here really happened because I knew somebody that knew the gentleman that hired me. And because that connection was there, they were comfortable bringing me into my job.
I have a
it's a,
question.
yeah.
So when you were looking for a job, especially since when you're a student, what did you consider more, the salary or the experience?
Great question.
Yeah.
That is a great question. That's a really good question. I personally looked into more of experience and then decided I could try to format the experience to match the salary I needed, but it's definitely different uh, in different situations. Like sometimes, in order to make rent, you have to have this much income every month. So maybe you can only find five private lesson students, but you need another $100. So then maybe you find another little job that you can do to put on top of the experience. Um, for example, nowadays in the United States, it's really common to have food delivered to you. Like we have Uber Eats or all of these different companies that you can work for where you just deliver things to people's houses and you can do it on whatever hours you want. So that's something that I would look for where I can control how often I do it and just have that little extra income I need to be successful, but I can focus the most of my time on experience based income.
All right. So,
Yeah,
is there
here in the Philippines, we also have the delivery. We
Grab?
have a Grab
Yeah, it's like
Food,
Uber but
Food
Grab.
Panda. We don't
Oh,
have
Yeah.
Uber.
I think
Yeah,
we
we
have
don't
too
have
many.
Uber anymore. Yeah.
we have too many. I believe it.
Eh. So, any other
My
question?
light turned
Oh,
off. Wait,
your
now I
um,
lights
have to
went off.
stand up.
yeah.
It's motion censored, keeping you
Oh,
on your toes.
Yeah.
it's more
Well,
like
one more question
free.
for me. Is it all right?
Mhm.
Uh, so about teaching. How about teaching, marching, and other performances? How you were able to handle it? Because we all know that it's very hard to maintain that. How can you still get an energy to teach, perform?
In March.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great question. That's a really that was a challenge for me in while I was in school for sure. And I think what helped me is I didn't jump in to a huge obligation or like a big time commitment. I always did just little pieces. So like my freshman year, I did not work a job. My freshman year, I wanted to just learn how to do college and learn how to balance obligations in school. And then my sophomore year, I was able to add a little bit more. And then my junior year, I could add a little bit more and learn about how to balance more and more as time went on. Um, and then otherwise, it's just the calendar, like really just having a honest schedule that I can try to follow and an honest schedule that I can change when I don't follow it.
Yeah. So it's more like one step at a time.
Yeah, I would never make a huge obligation that I didn't feel like I had like trained for. It's like I can't go run a marathon right now. I don't run. I'm really bad at running. So if I went to go run a marathon, I would probably fail. So I would have to go try to run around my living room first to see if I could
Yeah.
do it.
All right. So far, no questions for the
Yeah,
FB.
we can move on.
Yeah, I think so.
That looks great. Because the next slide refers back to Benedict's question about how to decide where to put your time. Oh yeah, stress.
Ah,
That
yes.
is a normal that is a normal part of college and probably a normal part of life. Stress, it's there. And I put this slide here because we just talked about the school that you're balancing and we talked about the expectations outside of school, how to make money, how to be networking, how to have experience. And when I think of all those 5 things at one time, I feel stressed because that is a lot of stuff that we are expected to do. So, the way I combat that is the next slide. I call it the nearest fire. It basically means what is going to be the biggest problem first, or where is your biggest commitment. So, like, the closer you are to the fire, the more chance it's going to burn you. That's the metaphor. Like, if I'm sitting at a campfire and I get really close to it, my face will probably get burned. So, I need to handle that situation first. And that would be what the nearest fire is. Now, here's uh, a this is a taboo. Taboo means like something that's not said out loud because it's considered not proper. It is unrealistic to try to give 100% of your energy to everything you do all the time. I said it out loud. I said it on live. It's out there now. I think it is idealistic where people are like, yes, I can do it, commit all of my time, do everything perfect. No, you can't do that. It's unhealthy to do everything 100% perfect all of the time. You have to learn how to weigh your responsibilities and figure out what deserves 100% of my energy right now, what maybe only deserves 90% of my energy right now, what deserves 50% of my energy right now. How much time should I put on this activity? Like, how important is this activity in my large goals? Which I really don't think is talked about enough. I wish when I was in my school that someone talked to me more about it being okay to prioritize. And so, um, in order for that to work, you have to know what your priorities are. Priorities, in case we're not sure, priority means like where you put your energy, like what is the most important thing to you. Uh, let's jump into the next slide, please. So, you must know your priorities, like where is the most important thing to you in life. So, for example, the most important thing to me in my life is my family. And then after my family comes my career and my friends and self care. And it goes in an order. And priorities are a really difficult conversation to have with yourself because how could you rank things that are so important? Like, how could you rank your friends, family, and school and yourself? Like, those 4 things, putting them in an order is really hard to do, and it's honestly a pretty vulnerable thing to do out loud, but it's important to understand where it lines up because that's what's going to help you figure out what's worth all of your time and what's worth not all of your time. So for example, if I like I'm here now with you all on live PAS and it is a priority to me because I love my career, I love what I do, I love talking about percussion and helping other people. But if I were to get a call that said, like, something's happening, my family's in danger, and I am like absolutely needed, I have to go, it's my priority. I would go if it were like a dire situation. Um, Now, that's not going to happen because the odds of that are very slim, but it's an example of where you have to have a ranking and understand what's the most important. That's what gives you a proper sense of direction in all the decisions you make. Okay, that was a lot of words. I hope that made sense to everybody.
Yeah, it's
Let's
okay.
do
We're taking
all good?
notes.
Okay, Let me look over here at my notes so I know that I'm talking about the right things. Okay, so once you know your priorities, then you can start looking at actions. So little decisions in life and the little actions you make are inherently connected to your priorities, whether you realize it or not. Like if I choose to not do my homework tonight because I would rather practice my snare drum rudiments, that means the snare drum rudiments are more important to me, or maybe I have a test on my snare drum rudiments the next day. So that's a very close fire. I have to solve that problem right now. And then I can do my homework later because the homework is a fire further away. It can wait a little bit longer. It's not the most important right now. And being able to have a conversation like that with yourself really helps promote a more healthy relationship with all of the obligations that you have. Um, I actually do not remember what the next slide is. I don't. Could I see what that looks? Oh yes, go back. We'll stop and breathe in a minute. No breathing yet. Hold your breath. Just kidding. Please breathe. So, the way this works in school in prioritizing is you have to know how much time you're going to give to what assignment or how much time you're going to give to what practice session. And with that, you have to have like an honest understanding of how much time you need. So, like, I know that if I need to learn one page of rudimental snare drum music, I might need to take maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours to do that. And I always add a little more time than I think I need. I never think that I'm going to be the best. I always assume I'm going to be the worst. And so I'll put 2 hours on my calendar to learn this snare drum song. And then maybe after the snare drum song, I don't do anything for the rest of the day because it's time to eat dinner and go to sleep. Um, and then there's the all too well known situation of I have two things that need to be done and I only have time for one thing. That happens to everybody. And you have to figure out the proportion of do I do one thing to the best of my abilities or do I do two things like maybe get 50% energy? Maybe I split it between the two. And like it's such a hard decision to make, but it has to happen. And I think the conversation of realizing that we all do it needs to happen more. Like we need to realize that we all make these decisions and there's nothing wrong with making those decisions. It's human nature to have to choose and decide where you're going to put your time and where you're going to put the energy you have for your obligations. It has to happen that way. Um, I have a little example here on how I would do that if I were in school. So, in the United States, if I want to study for a music degree, I have to take classes in other uh, other areas. Like, for example, math. I had to take math classes while I was studying percussion, and math is very important. But when it came to my priorities and my decisions, the math was a little bit lower to me than my music lessons. And like it's so dangerous to say this out loud. I hope none of my teachers are watching me. But like you have to know what's the most important, what's going to help me in my lifelong goal. Like my number one priority is to learn to teach music to people, which would mean that I need to learn this for my music class and the math class can wait. Um, and then sometimes teachers will give what's we call it a syllabus. It's a piece of paper at the beginning of your
Yes.
class that spells out everything. You guys have that as well?
Yes, we also have that. Up,
I
up, up, up
Yes.
analyze
until now. Up until
I
now.
analyze all of those. Because they have due dates in it. They say like your final paper will be due on this day, and it's like 3 months away, so you don't think about it. Or it'll spell out how you're graded. Like our syllabus will say quizzes are worth 20% of your grade,
Yes.
just so we can do the math. I would always do the math on little assignments. Like if I think I don't have time to study for the math quiz because I want to practice snare drum, I would look at my syllabus and see quizzes are worth 20%. There are 8 quizzes in the class. That means that each quiz, wait, I did this math ahead of time because I'm not good at math.
Yes.
Each quiz is worth 2.5% of your grade, would be how that breaks down. Now, that sounds like a lot, but you have to remember that it's 2.5% of your grade, but it's 2.5% of what grade you get on the quiz. So if you get a 100 on the quiz, you get all 2.5%. If you get a 50 on the quiz, you get 1.25%. And so then I would look at my current grade in math and decide if I could I lose 1.25% of my grade and be okay? And if the answer is yes, I'll play snare drum because it's not as important to me.
Yeah,
And like
it
that
is
sounds like a lot of work. Sorry?
yeah, it is also hard to manage the ACADS academics and our major course. So maybe the best thing to do is like what you said, uh, try to balance it out as far as you can.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Okay,
actually heard
so
a
yeah,
professor told me once that you should focus more on your majors than your minor subjects. So it's fine to fail minors as long as you pass the majors. It was a professor
Right.
who told me that.
Our saying is C's get degrees
yeah,
in your minor class. Like if you don't need an A in math, don't get an A in math.
as long as you pass.
Right. Like, and
Yeah.
that sounds bad, but it means that you're going to get an A in your minor
Right.
lessons. Do it. Uh, Wait, I had one more thing
Yeah.
about this before we
Yeah.
move on. Oh, I said know
Yeah,
your absence policy. I do not condone skipping class. Do not skip class. But you do have to know
yes,
if you miss a class period, how does it affect your grade? Like,
yeah,
there has been maybe 2 or 3 times ever in my degree that I chose to not go to a class because I needed that time to practice or I needed that time to do something else. It's very rare that I would do that, but it did happen.
yeah.
It's
More
I
yeah,
did it.
more like if you skip class or because you have something to do. Yeah, it's best to put in your mind that you just know the consequences of not attending that class.
Right. It
So
has to be
you
worth
will
it.
be prepared for what will be happen when you attend again to that class.
Exactly. And sometimes that happens and I
Yeah,
believe that's okay once in a while.
yeah. Once in a while is good.
Okay. Um I hope that answered your question, Benedict, on prioritization. If there are any other questions on how to make these decisions, that would be a great time
Yeah,
now.
maybe there's a bunch of questions later in the last part.
Mhm. So
Well, I have a
we're all good?
question right now. Um,
Ready.
when you perform, was there a time when you didn't give 100%? Like especially when it's like on stage in front of a lot of people.
Yes. I guess. It's happened. It just depends on like it just goes back to my ranking and my priorities. Like I'm so brave saying this out loud. If my old professor is listening, plug your ears. But like during my senior recital, there were other performances I had to do. So like I'm learning my senior recital music, but I'm also in percussion ensemble. I'm also in the orchestra. I'm also in the wind symphony. We had a steel drum band and we had a salsa band. So I'm in all of those ensembles at the same time, which means I have to prioritize where my practice time goes. And sometimes I would choose the senior recital, which would mean there might be a section of my music that I was not prepared enough on a performance in an ensemble. And as awful as it tastes to say that, it did happen. There were a time or two that I could not be any more successful and I just knew like this part of the music, I'm just going to be really careful to not ruin it for anybody else and do my best to contribute, but I could have done better. And I think those opportunities are sad in a way, but like I would take them as like a lesson. Like in the future, what can I do so I don't do that again? It just has
All
to
right.
happen to where you recover.
Yeah. I think it's still not. This question comes from one of our fellow past member, John Paul Tan Pida Hermosa. So his question is about what advice should you give to those students who has no access in percussion instruments because of pandemic?
That's a good question. I My students who are online earlier in the semester, I told them that percussion could be anything. You just have to work on the skill sets, and it's really more about what happens in your mind than maybe what happens with the most amazing equipment. So, like my students, we would drum with our hands on pillows. I would have them go get a pillow from their bedroom, and we would drum on the pillow if needed. Or we would practice learning music in your mind, like close your eyes and look at the marimba. Can you see the E flat? Play the E flat. Okay, now go up the scale. Play an E flat scale in your mind. You see it? What flats did you hit? What hand hit the A flat? And so we would practice a lot of mental stuff like that because, I mean, in reality, we are our mind. This is just our like mechanism for playing
Yeah.
music.
Yeah. Can I also want to share what did I do because before 2020 I don't have marimba. So what I did is I get a long cardboard, then I get some tape or more like packaging tape or duct tape. I think duct
Hmm.
tape, the gray one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also
It's good.
I did it. Yeah, I put it in the cardboard. It represents as the blocks. Then after that, I practice four mallets like single alternate, uh, double lateral there. So as far as I still don't have the marimba. I practiced on that cardboard this uh, until last year. I get the 4.3 marimba, but it's still 4.3, but it's better than better than nothing. So it's really helpful that you improvise until you can get one.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I mean, technique is almost I'd say technique is equal with actually learning notes. So playing your four mallets on a piece of cardboard or on the floor is perfect. It's genius.
Yeah, I also watch it in the some of the internet, some in YouTube. I get some ideas from that videos. Yeah, so yeah, that's it.
That's great.
And is there any more questions?
So far, still, yeah, there's still no questions on the FB Live. So maybe we can
All
continue
right.
to the next part.
Awesome. This next slide is my favorite.
Yes.
Yes. All right. This is what I didn't learn to do until maybe my junior or senior year of college. So I spent 3 years like just following what I was talking about for the previous slides of just like calendars, prioritize, expectations, balance, balance, balance. And then I became a junior in college and I was like, oh my gosh, that's enough. Stop, wait, pause. And I started to discover the what people talk about when they say they feel burnout because they do the same thing over and over and it's exhausting. And so I remember having to stop and I reestablished my priorities and I added myself to my priority. That didn't happen until I guess it was my 3rd year of college when I stopped and was like, my health is also important in this, and what I'm doing needs to be balanced as well. So that was my next battle that I learned was how to add on things that helped me still love what I do and find a balance within myself. So actually, the way it happened was I was in my junior year. I was marching drum corps. I was in school. I was teaching. I was attending and competing in conventions. There were other things. It was just a very busy time, and I remember I had to stop and I reevaluated and I actually cleaned my slate. I stopped marching drum corps for the time. I told myself like drum corps needs I've done enough of marching band. I need to pause and go find other things to learn about in percussion. And so I didn't march indoor again. I didn't march drum corps again. And I took a pause from teaching as well. And I chose to just wait and find what other opportunities music had that I could put myself in. And I think it really helped me like reestablish my passion for music and my passion for teaching because I discovered the whole other world of music. Like music has so many parts to it. You know, there's marching band, there's percussion ensemble, and there's like the stuff that we do every day. But then there's also, you know, new music, electronic music. There's orchestra. There's, you know, experimental music, classical music. And so I fell in love with Mozart. I started learning about electronic music and uh, digital audio workspaces on the computer. And I really just started rebuilding what I do outside of school from scratch. And it was a beautiful thing to stop and restart. And then I did later on go and march drum corps again, but that was after I had already learned the lesson of how to balance new things and kind of reestablish my passion for what I was doing. And so let's jump to the next slide. And here's the lessons that I learned. You are not alone when you're in school, and I know in the pandemic it's even harder to feel by yourself with your computer in your room. But you have to find these support groups and the outlets that are around you. And I remember when I stopped marching band and I looked around, I discovered that it wasn't really about the fact that I was marching and it wasn't about the fact that I was going to rehearsals and learning music. It was about the people I was with while I was doing it. It was about the teachers that I met that I learned from, and it was about the people that I played in the ensembles with that I learned and made connections with. And they were there to help me feel like what I was doing had a purpose. And I think nowadays, maybe the most important thing in college that I would tell someone is that they need to have someone as a support that's living in your day to day life, someone that's doing what you're doing, like going to classes, maybe playing the same instrument that has like the same level of stress that you do. No one has the exact same level, but someone close, like a support group that you can trust that knows what it feels like to wake up and live the day that you'd live. And then beyond that, I also started to invest more time in the support group of my family. Like my first couple years of college, I didn't do a good job calling home to talk to my mom. I didn't do a good job staying connected with my sisters. And then after the third year of college, when I revamped what I prioritize, I said I'm going to call my mom once a week, or I'm going to start texting my sisters more to learn about their lives. And I found a support group in my family. And that was a really nice thing to have a life outside of my career. And I think it's super important that you are connected with some form of family, whether it's, you know, like genetic family or someone that you consider family or maybe a relationship you're in. Family can mean anything to you, whatever you believe. But to have family support and school support are so important in making your way through any troubles. You're going to have ups and downs in your life, and your family and friends are going to have up and downs in your life. And being there for each other is what I found made the biggest difference in my final years of my undergrad and throughout my second degree in Texas, which can be tricky. So then the second bullet point I have here is you have to be vulnerable and ask for help when it's needed. I had this problem. I might still have this problem where I don't want to ask for help. I want to solve the problem myself. And like I have learned that is not going to work. I have to be okay asking for help when I need it. And that lesson is super important and took me way too long to learn that when I need help, It is okay to ask for help because I'm okay when other people ask me for help. So why it doesn't make sense to not want to reciprocate that. Give someone else the opportunity to help when you need it. It's the most healthy relationship that you could have. Um, and then the next thing is when you're scheduling out back to the calendar, you have to schedule time that is for you away from your obligations in your life. You have to find time that is like hobby or wind down time. So like in the past year, I discovered that I really like to cook. So I make a point 3 times a week to try to cook a nice meal for myself because I enjoy that process. That's a hobby that lets me decompress and relax. Some people like yoga, some people go on walks, but like something that gets you out of your day to life and turns into a wind down process. Um, and then the other thing I recommend people add is a consistent routine that puts you to sleep at night. So before I go to bed, I will always watch like a 30-minute, I don't know, Bob's Burgers or something on online that I think is just funny. It's not of any logic or it's not of like smart. It doesn't make me smarter to watch it, but it has programmed me to know that it is time to stop working and go to bed. Some people read a book. You could read for 10 minutes before you go to sleep because consistently doing something before you go to bed teaches you that this is your life away from your job and it's time to take care of yourself and get the rest that you need and then try again tomorrow. Oh, there go my lights again. Now I get to stand up. Oh, and we got it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Or everybody blinked at the same time. Who knows? Um, okay. And then the other thing that I found when I was looking for a support group is this isn't for everybody, but I bought a cat my sophomore year of college. And I remember like the sole reason I bought his name is Charlie. His middle
Oh,
name is
Charlie.
Waffles. When he was a kitten, I called him Waffles. Now he's an adult and I call him Charles. He is like my best support group because I could come home from a long day at school or a long day at work, and there's a little piece of love that wants to see me and is excited
Yeah.
that I'm home.
Waiting for
And
you to come back.
yeah, and takes my mind away from my day. And I absolutely love that. So that was another thing that really helped me find that. And so, kind of to conclude this slide, you have to find your outlets that take you away from your day to day life, whatever it may be. And on a broad scheme of things, I find that I would constantly have to remind myself of my goal and my motivation. Like I would have to tell myself, I love teaching music. I am stressed right now and I don't want to take this math test tomorrow, but I have to do that because I love teaching music. And I would kind of put myself back on the tracks and know that my big goal in life will be accomplished and I have to take that math test tomorrow. And it would make me feel
Yeah.
okay and feel better and not feel so stressed. And I wish I practiced that earlier in my degree.
Yeah. To get motivated.
Yeah, it does a lot. Like saying it out loud is different than saying it in your head by by a lot. Okay. The last little thing I want to talk about before we go to the next slide is similar to that. It's motivation, knowing what drives you to wake up and do what you do every day. And when the pandemic hit, it was even harder for me to remind myself that this is my motivation. This is what I love to do. And I found that by finding new outlets in your passion helped me keep it keep it fresh. So like not just being passionate about percussion music, I learned to be passionate about piano classical music. I started listening to some of Schumann's piano suites, his characters to be specific, and looking for new ways to be excited about it helped me feel better. And I think in the long run, it made me a better teacher because I can speak so much more broadly about music. So having your passion and your motivation always there, that's your root, that's your driving force. You have to have that. And then the last thing that I learned to practice was gratitude. I learned to be able to say out loud when I'm thankful for something or when I feel like if I'm feeling down and sad, maybe because I didn't play very well on this concert, I will like stop and remind myself that I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have gotten the chance to play, and I'm on the way to living my dream. I'm thankful for my friends and my family and my job, and that everything's okay right now. Like sometimes you have to route yourself right now in what's happening to you. Everything's okay, you know. And like
Yeah,
I call it the music student crisis. I think it happens about once a month to everybody. About
yeah,
once a month,
everybody feels
everything
that.
feels like you're like, "Oh my god, I can't do
That's
this
true.
anymore. That's it. I'm going to go sell real estate." But I don't know. You just got to route
Agree.
yourself.
We feel you. Don't worry. You're not the only one. We can feel you.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
wild. But
Yes.
yeah,
Especially for
that's the
us
end of
since
this
we've been
slide.
stuck
Yeah.
online. It happens a lot.
Yeah. You said about
Yeah.
earlier that you're about taking a break. Yeah. I just want to share that uh, by taking a break from everything, yeah, either they're music related or not music related, uh, it it lets our mind to think more, to see more things that you didn't do when you focus. Because when you focus on one thing, the other things is you ignore the other things because you want to focus on that thing. So taking a break really helps us to open our minds, to explore more, to have a new I don't know, you discover some things that you didn't know because you focus on that thing. So yeah. And also,
Yeah.
the other thing is about the problem. You don't want to share your problems. You don't want to get help to others. I also feel that because for me, uh, when I want when I have to get help from somebody, I I think in my mind that when I ask for help from somebody, I think it brings trouble to that person. So for now, I'm trying to fight that thing because I want to rely more to my friends, to somebody uh, to to make myself better. And also, my question about in teaching, because you're teaching right now, right? So
Hmm.
my question for that is, in terms of teaching, how do you communicate with your students? So how do you close the gap between you and the students?
Oh, I understand. I try to be who I am all the time. I I think students are smarter than maybe teachers might realize. Like teachers that put on a character and they're like, "I am the teacher and this is who I am," is is strange to the students. They can tell that you're doing that. And I think what's really helped me connect with my students is I let them see me for who I am and what I love, and I let them see that I am passionate about music in this way and I am passionate about my cat in this way, and let them know who I am, and it makes them feel safe to be who they are.
Yeah, it's more like you're trying to close to the student, but at the same time you're putting a barrier because it's still a student teacher relationship. So it's more like it is there's still a limit on how do you want to be close with the student.
That's true. I'm glad you said that. There is a professional boundary, and there are, of course, things like they could say that make me have to shift into teacher mode. Like if a student starts
Yeah,
talking about some hard times at home, I have to be the teacher at that point and say, "You're welcome to speak to me, but please know there are certain things that if you say I must report them to the counselors or whatever," and like putting up that barrier. And there are things that I don't share with students because they don't need to know, of course.
yeah,
Like they don't need to know about my personal life, but I can be a teacher while still being true to who I am. And I think you're right, Kent. Like having that balance between professional and who you are makes students' connection feel even safer.
yeah. It's more like
I, I
you
have a
have
question.
yeah
Sorry.
yeah go go
I
go.
was just wondering, have you ever taught a relative? Like, how if did that ever happen? Because like, how can you
Not
set
yet.
like a professional boundary with a relative, right?
I wouldn't teach them professionally. I would just
Yeah,
teach them for fun.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
uh
About
like
yeah.
my mom is a science teacher and
Oh,
we would take science classes in school, but it wasn't very common that we would study science together because it was funny. She would go into being teacher mode, but we're like at home and it's my mom. So like my mom's being a teacher right now to me talking about science and I just want to go play video games. So it's
yeah.
it's actually pretty funny when that happens.
You're more like
Yeah.
in the outside the classroom we can be friends, but in the classroom I'm the teacher. I'm the teacher and you're the student. So something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like being able to protect yourself and knowing what you can and can't say. Like you, especially I find as a young teacher, students want to trust you on a different level because you're close to
Yeah,
their age. And I have to work even harder to make sure they know that I'm not their friend. And that sounds really harsh, but sometimes like I'll even jokingly tell them like, remember, I'm not your friend until you graduate college. So
yeah,
slow down. I don't need to know some of these things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
I have a question.
Yeah, Benedict, go.
Yeah.
Um, do you do you use certain methods like ORF, Kodai, etc.?
Yeah, in
I use
teaching.
both. I think
Oh,
both have their own credits and are important. Sometimes I need to teach something on an instrument away from music. Like I find rudimental drumming sometimes has to be taken away from music. So I'll use more ORF techniques in that we are going to just play this technique first, and then we're going to look and see what it looks like notated. But I also use Kodai when I teach beginners. We learn solfege. I want them to know solfege when we first learn our scales because it helps them have the relation to what the root of the chord is. So I find a balance of the both of them is the most helpful.
yeah. We had that one thing that you said about teaching Kodai in the beginners, because here in the Philippines, the common thing that the percussionist taught that if you're learning a percussion, you don't need to learn Kodai. You don't have to learn singing because what you're playing is not you're not using your voice because you're using your hand. So it's great.
Hmm.
It's great that you open up about teaching the Kodai method, the singing, and learning the scales. So it's
Yeah,
really helpful.
audiation. They have to
Yeah,
audiate. They got to make the
yeah,
sound with their face that they're going to make with their hand.
yeah. Um, for the next question, uh, so as an instructor, what advice can you give to aspiring teachers or instructors in teaching percussion? So what should they focus or something like that?
Hmm. That's so interesting. I don't feel like I've been an instructor for very long. I know I've taught 1 year, but like we're not too
Yeah,
different. Um, I think my favorite thing that I've learned regarding this topic is that you have to be an active learner to be an active teacher. You have to know how to learn your own way, and you have to know the different ways of teaching yourself, and then you become a better teacher. I've always said the best learners become the best teachers, someone that really understands the process. It's not about being naturally talented, it's about being able to figure out a problem and explain it to somebody that has no idea.
yeah. So you open up also the question I asked you about earlier, about mental health. So in the pandemic, you said that how you handle it is because you have someone, because you're what is that name? What's the name? Uh,
The cat,
your
Charlie?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because here in the Philippines, we also have that kind of thing that we often uh, care. We also try to have someone like, yeah, dog or cat. So
Or
I think
plants.
Jules can relate to that because
Yeah.
she also have a pet also.
Yeah, I recently got a dog, and honestly, it's thanks to my puppy that I've been waking up early now.
Yeah,
and
we're
I'm
like that.
motivated to do things. Yeah.
It's our stress
That's wonderful.
reliever now.
Yeah.
It's a good one. They're so animals are so happy. Like you
Yeah.
can feed
Yeah.
off of that, especially a dog. I bet that dog is happy.
Oh, very happy. It likes to bite me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Also, for next question also is because you graduated, you teach because you're a teacher also. So what drives you to take the music education now course?
I'm sorry. I think I might have
Wh-
froze a
Uh,
bit. Would you repeat the question?
why did you take the music education?
Oh, like in college?
yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was in 7th grade when a counselor asked me what I want to do when I grow up. And I said, I don't know, because I'm a 7th grader. Those are like 12-year-olds. Why would you
Yeah.
ask a 12-year-old what they want to do with their life? And she went through the class and she's like, "What do you like math? No. Do you like your English classes? No. Do you like history? No." And she was like, "Well, 12-year-old Emily, what do you like?" And I was like, "I like my band class." And I really remember that moment because from then on I was like, "Yeah,
You fall in love now.
I like band. That's it. Music. I'll just do that for my whole life." And and it worked. So
Yeah,
I
I can
stayed with it.
relate. I was also like that around my eighth grade. Like, I was already thinking what I should do at that young age. And I was like, that's how I did it as well. Math? No, I don't want to be an accountant. I don't know how to do math well. So I like ticked the box and I was like, music, that's what I know I want to do. It was really
Yeah.
like
Also,
that for me.
yeah. Also, I also fall in love in the music when I was in grade school. I think grade 5, because I joined in drum and lyre. So drum and lyre here in the Philippines is more like percussion ensemble in the US, something like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I started from drum and lyre. Then suddenly I saw a band, a marching band, playing for some events here. Then it makes me think that I should try. I want to try playing percussions. So then after that, I started to join that band, and then that's all. That's why I'm here now, having a talk with you right now. So it's really music can really did some great thing to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think music education was a really wonderful because you could just go into music and be a performer, but I liked education the most because I really love the interaction with people. Like I'm a believer that people exist for people. So being able to interact and be with other humans through music was like, that's it. That's it. That's going to be
Yeah.
the job. If I can live that way, I will do it.
I have a
So
question. Ian,
Mhm.
yeah.
sorry. So just curious, like why did you choose percussion specifically? That like out of all the instruments, like personally for me, I think
Yeah.
being a percussionist is a very expensive profession. So why percussion?
Oh man, you're right. It is an expensive profession, and they sure didn't tell me that when I chose it. Um, Man, in 6th grade is when you choose the instrument you wanna play, and I remember I really wanted to play trumpet because I thought that looked fun, and then when I saw that it involved my mouth and that they were making these weird sounds with their mouth to try to play trumpet, I thought that was gross when I was a kid. Like, that's just what, 10-year-old me thought, and I was like, no, I don't wanna do that." And then I saw percussion and it's loud and you get to hit things and it's using your body, so it's physical and you're standing and you're moving, and I went, "Yep, that'll work."
Nice. Benedict, do you have any questions?
I have question. Did you ever lose your passion due to that burnout?
Yeah.
And how did you rekindle your passion for music?
I did. I came close to it my 3rd year of college. My life was all about marching band from, like, when I first became a teenager. probably for 10 years, I was a marching band fiend. I loved it. I wanted to do it everywhere. And then I got tired of it because marching band to me started to feel like the same thing. And I started to feel burnout from it. And it was really sad for me because it was something that I loved for so long. And so I stopped, I took a break from it and I found music in other places. Like I studied abroad. I went to Salzburg, Austria, and I chose to start playing classical music more, and I refound my passion, and then I found my way back to the marching arts and I love it again.
Oh, that's nice. Uh, I guess
Thank
a lot of us also came to a close to losing our passion when it comes
Yeah,
to music. So I guess sometimes we need a break from it to
a
really,
breather.
see how important it is in our life.
Yeah, especially with the pandemic, I think a lot of people had a hard time rediscovering their passion for music. And honestly, now that in the States we've come kind of back into in person music, I think it's almost dangerous that we're trying to jump back into what we just were doing before the pandemic because it's too much from nowhere. Like being on lockdown and not interacting in our normal music life, and then jumping back into school into our regular, you know, everything we do all the time music life has been a little intense. And I think that we're not noticing that maybe we need to slow down and find passion in new ways to stay interested in what we love.
Yeah. Is there another slide? Is there any more
Yeah,
that we should?
I think
Uh,
there's still no
Oh, there
question
might
for
be.
the FB Live. Maybe later after this one last
y-
slide.
yeah.
I don't know what this last slide is. This is going to be a surprise. I don't remember. Oh,
Oh yeah,
balance. That's right. This slide means you've done it. You just have to find your way to balance what you prioritize. There's no wrong answers in life. And if music school isn't for you, that's fine. Find your balance. Whatever works best for you. And once I graduated and was all done with school and started my job that I'm in now, I did it again. I had to start over and find a new balance. I have a new calendar. I went through the same process. Calendar, extracurricular things, expectations, prioritizing, and finding the balance in my life that I have today. And I'm still fighting for it. I don't think I have it quite right. There's still some things I need to improve on. And I just know that I can solve the problem. I'll figure it out. I'll find the balance that works best for me. And I really hope that through this presentation, I have given you maybe at least one thing that could help you find the balance in your life.
that's great.
And I
Thank
get
you.
so that's it. Yeah. Is there any other questions?
I think we oh from the FB Live. Ano?
Oh, I have a question. Like, when you were a student, like, what instrument did you practice more on?
I'm sorry,
Oh
I might have lost that one.
Oh, um, let me just repeat that. What instrument did you practice more when you were a student? Like, did you do more on the snare or the marimba?
Oh, good question. I love marimba. I played marimba every chance I had. And then
yeah.
I learned that that was not the answer. I had to spend more time. So then I ended up having to flip and spend more time on snare drum and then spend more time on uh, Latin percussion. And I just switched around.
Oh,
I
I
try
can
to
relate.
explore more.
Hmm.
So
I was
Uh,
forced.
you have a question, Jules? Another question?
no, no, no.
Okay, so
I have
one
a
last
question.
question. Oh yeah, go
Ayan,
Benedict, go.
Benji.
When you performed, was there a time when you did not give 100% of your energy?
Oh, I think
I think we talked
yeah,
about that one, but I'm
I think
not
yeah.
that
known
was,
for my
I
memory.
think I think
The answer was a
you
secret
answered that.
yes.
yeah, it was a secret.
It was secret yes. Don't tell my teachers. Yeah, it happened. It was a lesson I learned from. Oh, I'm sorry if
Yeah.
you can hear my students out there. They're loud.
That's fine. Here's a question. What was the first thing you did when you graduated? Like, did you start working right away, or did you take a time off?
No, I guess I did start working right away, but I scheduled. That's funny. I did. I scheduled a time for me to not work. So like once I found my job and I felt safe, like I knew what was next in my life, then I took like a vacation. Like I took
Yeah,
time to
break.
not do my job, which is
It's good to
That's
have
super
a
nice.
break.
fun.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh,
So
Um,
uh,
I guess there's no more questions,
yeah.
right?
I think I have
Yeah.
one last
All
really.
right. All right.
uh, in the US, do you have also a licensure for the teacher?
yes.
Yeah.
And
If it has licensure, did you also take that licensure or no?
I did. I'm a
Oh.
licensed teacher, and it's a little challenging in the United States because every state has a different licensure, and
Oh.
sometimes they relate to each other and sometimes they don't. So like I have a license in Tennessee, but I had to change to get a license where I live now in Texas,
It
So
sounds
more.
which
So
complicated.
is
meaning
it
you
is.
have to get one license of one state. Then you have, if you want to teach in another state, you have to take another licensure. Ooh.
Yeah, sometimes it just switches and it you don't have to do anything. Sometimes you have to take a test. Sometimes you have to pay, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's not as
Yeah.
easy as we would hope.
Uh, because here in the Philippines, you only have to take one licensure for the teachers.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if you fail, we only have to wait for another exam or another year to take again. So it's really interesting that to know that,
It,
yeah, in the
it's a
US you
different
have to
speeds.
take one license to the another state, and then it changed when you have to want to teach to the other state. So very helpful information.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So in uh oops. So everything's okay. No more questions.
yeah, no more questions.
So, so okay. So you have any last words, Emily, for our
Yeah.
audience?
Closing remarks,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Closing remarks are first and foremost, thank you. You guys did a great job hosting
Yeah.
and putting this
Thank you.
together. I had a wonderful time and I'm really honored to have had this opportunity. And I hope everyone that's watching got something from the clinic. And then the last thing I want to say is that the University Student Committee is looking to add delegates in universities all over the world. So if you are a
Yeah.
university student that wants to get more involved with PAS, go to pas.org/university students and look at our information. I know Jules and Kent are both delegates
Yes.
that work with me on the committee, and it's wonderful that they're doing great things and they're meeting people from all over the world
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
do the same things that we do. So it's a great opportunity.
Benedict, you have something to say?
Thank you, Emily. And we invite all the percussionists and drummers to join Percussive Art Society. And for more details, please visit pas.org or please send us personal message to assist
Yeah.
you.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. And also, I would like to thank to the viewers. And don't worry if you, if for the others who can watch it live, because it's still in the Facebook page, and also it will be uploaded to the YouTube channel of Past Page, so you will not miss anything. All right.
That's right.
So Jules, you have something to say?
No. I'm very thankful for today for
Yeah.
having Emily with us.
Yeah. It's
So
all
I
first time
hope
for us.
everyone
First time hosting this
and
event.
yeah,
Yes.
It was great. You
yeah,
guys did a great job.
we're yeah. So thank you very much. I guess that's
Thank you very
it.
much.
We hope
Yeah.
to see you
We are
both
overtime now.
again. All
All
right.
good. Hope you guys have a great night. Sleep well.
Yeah. And also have a
Have a
great
good
day to you.
morning.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right,
Goodbye.
bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you guys for what to
Thank
watch.
you.